Hello there guys, this is Christy Lewis from Dostoevsky in Space, and today I have my August wrap up and my September TBR. I think I finished 12 books in August, so it was a great reading month for me, and I'm very close to finishing a couple other things. So let's jump right into it. It's going to be an exciting month, and September is going to be an exciting month. Super excited. So, okay, first of all, I finished the Apothecary Diaries Volume 6. I think I've talked enough about this manga series, so I won't talk about it anymore, but so good. Definitely one of my favorites. And I also finished The Belton Estate by Anthony Trollope, which was my first Trollope, and it was just such a mood. I listened to like probably 90% of it on audiobook, and I just listened to the LibriVox version, and this was for Kate Howe's Patreon book club, and she was sounding all the alarms as she was reading it that it was going to be a new favorite Trollope, and I can definitely understand why. Like, for most of it, I was thinking, oh yeah, this is really fun. It's holding my attention. I wasn't thinking it was going to be a book that would stick around with me forever, you know, just thinking of it, but it actually was. I mean, I think it's something that I will probably go back to and enjoy another time and another time and another time on audiobook. Maybe it'll become kind of a Victober thing for me to reread. Honestly, I enjoyed it that much. So it was a great Trollope to start off with. So that is following a young lady named Clara, and she has been taking care of her dad, and she was raised as a lady as a lady of means, even though she didn't have any means, because her brother ended up bankrupting their family. And so by the time we're meeting her, she's broke, and she's trying to care for her dad and their estate, the Belton Estate. But the estate ends up going to a young man who was an enemy of her brother. And so as a result, her dad hates this man, Belton, and William is his name. And he ends up coming to the estate when he hears that the brother has bankrupted the family and that William, will be taking over the Belton Estate upon the death of Clara's father. And so Clara and William meet, and William falls instantly in love with her and proposes, and she already is in love with somebody else that she met in town when she was being raised by her aunt. And it just seems like Clara misses tons of opportunities to become a landed lady, but it's somewhat through her own choice. She's always like, I don't expect anyone to provide for me. She seems like the kind of girl that would just be totally fine to go and make her own living. And so she was really refreshing to me. I think she was probably the #1 complaint out of everybody. We read this for Chaos Patreon, like I said. And I think everybody who read it along with the Patreon, I think about half of the people could not stand Clara. And I understand why that is, but I really enjoyed Clara. I really just enjoyed the book as a whole. Yeah, so that's really common with me. People that will irritate other readers often won't irritate me. I don't know why that is, but honestly, if I'm enjoying a book, then I'm just enjoying it, and I don't think that hard about it, probably. I'm probably not thinking about it as hard as they are, or putting my expectations on what's going to happen. I'm just kind of like, go with the flow. I'm just enjoying it. So yeah, I really enjoyed it, and I would rate it very highly. I think I'd probably rate it like maybe an 85 or a 90, something like that, as far as enjoyment. As far as like writing style or anything, it wasn't like, this isn't a book that I feel like I need to sit down and read it because of the prose. It's not like a Dickens, if you know what I mean. I feel like Trollope has a very like plot-driven style. Clara feels like a sensation novel heroine, even though the plot isn't a sensation novel plot, but she just kind of makes it feel that way, you know? So I just enjoyed her. I enjoyed the kind of plot-driven feel of it, and yeah, I just enjoyed it quite a bit. So, and I really saw my husband, I felt like, in one of the romantic leads. And also, it was really unique to me that one of the romantic leads was a farmer, and then the other one was like a gentleman. I just feel like I mean, I know that there are Victorian books like that now, because people have told me in the comments and stuff when I mentioned that. They're like, oh yeah, there are other books like that, but I've never read another Victorian novel like that. So that was really refreshing for me. So I'm looking forward to Victober, where I can expand my Victorian knowledge. I don't read that many Victorian books, I think, but I usually enjoy them when I do. It's just for some reason not what I normally go to pick up. I think I tend to be more of a translated person. I really enjoy translated books, and they don't have to be classics. That's kind of what I'm turning into, I think, is a translated person. I like things that are translated. I don't know. I like a taste of another world. So, and that's why I like sci-fi as well. So anyways, what else? I finished The Case Against Sexual Revolution by Louise Perry. This was a reread. If you guys have seen my review, you already know that I read it earlier this year and loved it. Kevin and I listened to this in the car during all of my visits to doctors and stuff. And we read it within like 2 or 3 weeks. So it's not super long, but we have a lot of long drives. So we just chop. It was great. And he really enjoyed it and got a lot out of it, and yeah, we both really enjoyed it, so we had some great discussions as a result, so highly recommend. And I also finished If I Had Your Face by Frances Cha, which is this translated? Maybe translated isn't the right word. I guess books about other places, maybe, because a lot of the books that I read are not necessarily translated actually, but they are definitely not like about America. So Frances Cha, this was actually written in English, but the author is she grew up in the United States, Hong Kong, and South Korea, so she is very, I guess, aware of what's going on in other parts of the world. And this was almost journalistic in feel, and it really examines the beauty standards in South Korea and the things that women in South Korea have to do to meet those standards. Like, I had never heard of this, but women get their faces shaved, their jawlines shaved to be more of like a heart shape. And I was just shocked by that. That sounds terrible. And they said it takes like a year for your face to start looking normal again because of all the swelling and the damage caused. So yeah, I'm just shocked that somebody would go through that just because your society says your face shape isn't pretty. But I mean, I'm not shocked that they would go through that. I'm just shocked that they have to, that people feel like that's okay to force someone to do because of your standards. I mean, people will tell young people, you can get surgery for that. It's like, you should not be told that. Nobody should be telling you that. Your face is great the way it is. Please do not get that surgery. But I was sad to realize that K-pop idols do get those surgeries. So, and frequently they will get double eyelid surgery so that their eyes look bigger and more Western, honestly. So yeah, this was following, I think, 4 women with sort of all of their struggles with the beauty standards and kind of the difficulties of living in, I guess, Seoul. I think they all lived in Seoul, in South Korea. So yeah, it was gripping for me, and I was just fascinated and definitely loved it in a way, in a weird way. It was weird and sad, as a lot of people say about Korean literature, but I think there's a place for that if you kind of understand Korea. I guess weird and sad is that's something that they like to kind of cross that line. It's a very modern, a lot of Korean literature is like, it just feels very modern, and I'm actually enjoying that. I'm in apparently my modern era. So yeah, really loved this. I would highly recommend if you're interested in South Korea's beauty standards. If not, I mean, I buddy read this with Tiffany, but she DNF'd it because ooh, I just hit myself. It was really dark, and everybody, even if you are interested in Korea, but if you're a Korea fanatic like I am and you don't mind the weird and sad feel, then yeah, I would definitely say try it. Yeah, if you're like if you enjoy modern lit, I think you would enjoy this, actually. Even if you're not that interested in Korea, this definitely feels like you're getting a view of a totally different world that you've never experienced before if you've never traveled in Korea or lived internationally. Like I haven't. I've only lived in California my whole life. So this was definitely like a whole new world for me, and I was gripped. So loved it. What else? I finished Winter in Sokcho by Elisa, Shua, Dusapin, and this was a buddy read. I'm gonna pull it up so that you guys can see it on my phone. With Una from the Codex Cantina, and Tiffany from Beautiful Minutia, and also Stephanie from Miss Richards Reads. And we had some great discussions. I actually need to check the Voxer again because I know Stephanie sent some more messages about her thoughts on it, but we had some great discussions on it and I recorded a review of it. Hopefully I can get that up for you guys before too long. But this was a book written in French, and it's written about Sokcho, Korea, and it's written about a young woman who is helping her mother run an inn in Sokcho. Sokcho is kind of like a summer touristy town, and so we're seeing it in winter, and we're kind of seeing, I feel like, the main character's sort of winter period. Uh-oh. My camera's gonna die. I better go get my battery, hang on. So I don't remember exactly where I left off, but yeah, I feel like this is the narrator's kind of winter period. She doesn't really know what she wants. She's kind of divided. She's kind of depressed. She's in a lot of situations that she doesn't like and would kind of like to change. And I feel like it's just a period of change for her. And I really feel like it's talking about things that you don't necessarily think about when you think of South Korea, like kind of how much Koreans long for reunification, and there's just a lot of like Koreanness explored. There's a lot of talk about food, and yeah, I really loved it. I loved it. Again, it was probably what some would call weird and sad, but yeah, I loved it. I can see why it took off. Like, this was really big, I think, last year, probably. But I remember people reading it last year for co-readathon. And yeah, there's definitely a reason that people are reading it, but I think I was the one who loved it most out of all the buddy readers. So maybe I'm just not that critical of a reader. I don't know. I just know anything about Korea, I'm just fascinated by. So yeah, I loved it. I would recommend it to people who, again, probably enjoy modern literature. Yeah, people who enjoy modern literature. I think that's what I would recommend both of these books to. And I guess I'm one of those people now. I don't know. There's something about Korea's modern literature, though, that I really like. There's a lot of modern literature they don't like. So I don't know. Maybe modern literature that's like about other countries I like. I don't know. Whatever. I feel like there's not that much navel gazing going on in these books, whereas navel gazing is kind of like a staple of modern literature. I don't know. I guess I'm still processing, guys. I don't know. I really loved them both, though. So there's that. I also finished Monster Volume 3 by Naoki Urasawa, which is another manga series that I've described in like multiple videos now, so I won't continue to describe that, but it was a fantastic volume. And what else? Kuma-Kuma-chan's Travels by Kazue Takahashi, which I think is a kid's book. It was translated from Japan. I don't really understand why anybody would like it, though. It was, maybe kids would like it, I don't know, but there's not like these amazing illustrations. I don't know. It wasn't like that whimsical and fun to me. I don't know. I just thought it was like, why did somebody publish this? I don't know. It wasn't really for me, but I thought the title was really cute. That's why I got it. I guess that's what I get for just reading something based on the title. I also finished Attack on Titan Volume 2 by Hajime Isayama. Yeah. I have only watched a little bit. I've watched a couple episodes of the anime of Attack on Titan, but for some reason, when I read the first volume of the manga, that to me it felt so much more graphic and violent. I don't know why. I don't know if it's actually showing more, maybe, than the anime did, or maybe because the anime went so fast. Why am I holding this up? Who knows? Let me hold up. Oh, I didn't even hold up Monster for you. Or the Apothecary Diaries. I'm slacking. So, honestly though, Attack on Titan, Tiffany and I buddy read this as well, and we are planning to continue the buddy read, which I'm excited about. This is volume 1 of Monster by Naoki Urasawa. And I'll pull up Attack on Titan for you. I think even though the second volume, it's not like it was less violent, the plot was so good, and I have so many questions about the Titans. So Attack on Titan is about a walled city where humanity has been for, I think, hundreds of years. I think they've been there in there protected for hundreds of years because a bunch of Titan are they aliens? I feel like the Titans are aliens that just showed up on Earth, and they're like giant human beings, and they're cannibals, but they don't eat human beings, it seems like, because they have to in order to survive. It's like they do it for fun because they survive even though the humans are mostly protected behind these walls, and yet the whole world is overrun with Titans on the outside of those walls. And the walls it's like, it reminds me of the Lord of the Rings city where there's like tons of walls. It's kind of like that. Like they're just giant walls that protect the city. Well, in volume 1, the Titans breach the walls of the city. And so there's a group of young people who have trained to be able to like swing like Spider-Man kind of. They have like tools that allow them to swing and shoot the Titans at their weak spots, which are, I think, their eyes and their neck. And there's one girl that we're following named Mikasa who's like particularly just vicious and good at that. She is good at killing the Titans. And in volume 2, we learn her backstory, and it's like, wow, it is so intense. And there's another boy that she's really like best friends with. And something happens to him at the end of volume 1 that you're just like, ah! And then you find out more about it in volume 2, and it's like, ah! It's like, I can't wait to read volume 3. So we're going to continue. I think we were both hooked by that. Here's volume 1, which it's creepy if you look close at what's happening here. So that is a picture of a Titan who's particularly scary, strong, and smart. Why does it keep... Sorry. I don't know. So those red things are like muscles and things. It's like they don't have skin. It's really super creepy. The Titans, the illustrations of the Titans are super creepy. And I think I would have been terrified if I tried to read this when I was any younger. And I think if I read it too quickly, it'll give me nightmares. So it's definitely horror. I should say that. It's horror. But I love it. I love it. So I can't wait to read more. Next, Kevin and I DNF'd The Westing Game by Ellen Raskin, which I think would be something I enjoyed if I read it physically, but we were just listening to it in the car, and we were both not enjoying it, just listening to it in the car. So I was like, I would probably read this some other time maybe, but mysteries aren't really my genre. So really, it was supposed to be for Kevin, because he kind of likes twisty, plotted books. I don't know. If you have recommendations, he likes books that feel like a puzzle or a game, but I think this one was just a few too many years old for him, because he does not like the feel of a classic. It's like a repellent for him. It's like DEET for Kevin if it is older than a certain age. That doesn't go for every book. He likes some children's books that are older, but a lot of those are like, I don't know. I don't know if it's nostalgia for him or if it's because it's about animals. Sometimes he likes animal books, like about dogs and stuff. I don't know. I can't really tell his taste. I know he likes some books that are puzzly, but they can't feel like a classic. And this one felt a little bit like a classic. So yeah. I don't know. I probably would enjoy it. So I'm not saying it's a bad book, but just not for us. Okay, next, Cloud Cuckoo Land by Anthony Doerr. And I just discussed, this was a buddy read with Victoria, yay. She rated this so highly. It's like a favorite of the year for her. And I'm so happy for her. And for me, I think it's like probably maybe like in between a 3 and a 4. Maybe like a 75. Maybe like a 73. Something like that. I don't know. I really enjoyed the opening, and the ending I think was really impactful. But I feel like I would have enjoyed it more if I read it physically. And I think that's because, not that the audiobook was bad, but he was so unfocused. I still can't tell you what this book was about. It was so random. There was like 5 or 6 different characters, 3 different genres at least. I like I said, I can't describe what it was about. I can just tell you what each of the characters were doing. There's a theme, I guess, of loving libraries, but that's not really present throughout everything. I guess it is present. Like everybody, every perspective loves libraries. I mean, this is what I'm talking about. It's. I don't really like books that I read and it's really long and then I come out the other end not knowing what I just read. That's not really my thing. Kind of a modern thing, but I think modern books tend to be short and this was not short. So yeah, that's my problem with it. I still think it was good though. I think I would really enjoy his historical fiction if it was only historical fiction, or his sci-fi if it was only sci-fi. But the problem is he put in some like contemporary perspectives and I didn't care about them at all. Yeah, I liked the sci-fi and the historical sections, so I bet I would enjoy his historical fiction. So maybe I'll try it. The writing itself was great. I loved his writing. It was fun to read. It's just that if a book is that long, I'm not going to sit down and read the whole thing unless... I mean, even Bleak House, I haven't read the whole thing physically, despite loving the writing. I just read probably like 50 or 60% of it physically. And that was long enough for me to just enjoy the writing. And after that, I was like, okay, great, the plot's finally moving. So now I can listen to it. So yeah, I like writing that's pretty. That can get me so far in a book, but it can only get me so far in a book. If it's a chunker book, yeah, it needs to be edited down for me to like really love it usually. With the exception of Bleak House, which I love so much. I'll talk about that in a minute. Yeah, so that's my very mixed, unprocessed thoughts of Cloud Cuckoo Land. I really need to go through my notes, but I haven't done it yet because I don't think I love it enough to do that. But it was really good in some ways. In writing. Yeah, I don't know. Okay, I'm not even going to bother describing it. I've already talked long enough. The Vampyre by John Williams Polidori, which I read for Legendary Readathon. This is the only thing that I finished for Legendary Readathon because I am a terrible host. But that was the group read, so I finished the group read. Yay me. I loved this until the ending, and then something happens at the end that doesn't make sense at all. But since I enjoyed like 80% of it, 85, 90% of it, I loved it. I was gripped, I was riveted, I was loving it. And then yeah, something at the ending was just like, that's a stupid ending. So basically we're following a count who is really popular for no reason. I guess just his mystique. Everybody's fascinated by him. And he's super pale and the ladies just throw themselves at him. And there's a young man who comes into contact with this mysterious stranger. And the mysterious stranger and this young man decide to go on a tour of the continent. And so they go. And the younger traveler discovers that this mysterious man is basically preying on young ladies and trying to get them to like ruin themselves with him. And at that point, the young man is just like, okay, I'm losing this guy. He gets a letter from his parents saying, this guy is cruel. Don't hang out with him anymore. And so we're pretty much in the perspective of this young character. So he ends up departing from this tour of the continent, and he goes somewhere else away from this friend and falls in love with a young woman. I guess you could probably see what's coming from after this. So I'll just leave it there. And it's mysterious because, you know, it's called the Vampyre. So you kind of know who the vampire is and you kind of know what's happening, but it's still really fun. So this was like the original vampire story, and it was written by it was written in a scary story contest, but with John Williams Polidori, Mary and My brain is going. Lord Byron and the Shelleys. And the Mary Shelley wrote Frankenstein during the same thing. So during the same short story contest and scary story contest. And this vampire character was actually modeled off of Lord Byron, which I thought was great. I did not realize that. But the nice thing is the Google Books version, I read this story physically. I just couldn't follow it very well on audiobook, although I know that a lot of people did read it via audiobook. I really enjoyed it physically. And the Google Docs book, had some excerpts of letters that were describing people's experience with Lord Byron, or their not having experienced him, but heard him talked about, things like that. It was interesting. It was oh, you're including some historical textual context here. I like that. So that was a really fun experience. And I read I'm at 70% through New Moon, and in a couple hours we're going to have our live show, so I'm not going to be able to finish New Moon. But I'm planning to finish it by the end of the month, so I'm going to continue to do that. New Moon has been great, guys. It's dumb. It's fun. I loved it. I can definitely understand where the criticisms come from, but again, it's not worrisome to me because it's just a fantasy and it's just for fun. So I definitely did not get anything super negative out of this. I went in really fearing that I wasn't going to enjoy it, but I still enjoyed it. It's fun. So yeah, this is the second book of Bella and Edward. Edward Cullen and Bella Swan fell in love in book 1, but book 2 throws new troubles in their way, including Jacob the werewolf. You all know this. So this book is kind of Jacob's book. I feel like we get a lot of time with Jacob. Maybe that's why I like it. Jacob is so wholesome. This is why I wanted to pick it up again, though. It's so emo, and I think I enjoy the mythology of the werewolves even more than the vampires. I love that the vampire mythology is so entwined with morality, and how Edward's is so entwined with morality, and maybe that's because Stephanie Meyer, I think she's a Mormon. She thinks about eternal things, and so that's kind of infused. And with somebody that's as old as the Cullen vampires are, they're going to be thinking about things even that modern readers wouldn't necessarily know about. So, because they've lived through so many centuries. So I think Edward was born during the Spanish influenza, and his father vampire saved him from the influenza. So yeah, they have a lot of history, these vampires. Whereas the werewolves, they do not. They're young. They're just young teenage boys who are excited to go hunt some vampire and protect people. So yeah, I'm loving the werewolves. And Alice just returned in this book. So if you know what that means, that's my favorite part, I think, so far of the book, is when Alice returned. I was so happy. I've always loved Alice. I think Alice is my favorite character. So I'm loving this. I need to update my blog with some of those thoughts, my Legendary Readathon blog. I haven't been talking about it that much, but it's totally fun. I also DNF'd The Way of All Flesh by Samuel... I don't remember what his name is, sorry. Maybe I'll look it up. So this was a buddy read with Kate Howe, and she finished it. Go Kate. And I probably would have tried to finish it at least, except I really need to finish Bleak House. I definitely overestimated my abilities here. Actually, I didn't overestimate. I knew I wouldn't be able to finish everything, but sometimes if something grabs me and I love it, then I end up prioritizing it, and something else gets pushed off because I'm a mood reader and that's how it goes. This is The Way of All Flesh. So Samuel Butler was his name. This is, it's interesting, but it's too kind of long. And basically it's, I guess, why Samuel Butler decided to, he's criticizing the hypocrisy of Victorian families, which is legitimate. There's definitely some hypocrisy going on with his characters, who are mostly clergymen, and he's criticizing the clergymen. And I get that. And he's right. For the things that are happening are terrible. There's a lot of child abuse, like terrible things happening. But yeah, I guess whenever he makes an argument that's supposed to be, I guess, against Christianity, it's just so unconvincing. Like, in one instance, like, he kept using a verse in the Psalms to be like, this is not a good way to base your life off of. You shouldn't base your life off of this one verse in the Psalms. And no Christian would be like, yeah, you should base your life off of a verse in the Psalms. No Christian would tell you that if you asked. Also, he criticizes Christians a lot for not aligning their views with science. And I don't know, that's just not a valid criticism anymore in the modern day. There's lots of Christians that are scientists, you know? I mean, Kate's husband's a chemist. Like, you know, it's just like, it's not a valid critique anymore. So, and I mean, never really has been. There's always been Christians who are aligned with sciences. So, but I guess he's probably criticizing a problem that he grew up with and saw. It's just that it's so anecdotal feeling that it doesn't feel comprehensive or convincing. And so it's not really, I just didn't see a point in finishing it other than maybe reviewing it super negatively. Or maybe it wouldn't have even been that bad. Maybe I would have given it like 2.5 stars or something. There are some moments that were really funny, and I enjoyed his writing. Like, I enjoyed his writing itself. It's just that the story is like kind of tiresome. And Kate just says it gets worse from there. I got 38% through it. I really did kind of want to finish it and review it because I want to have like complete thoughts on it. But I didn't finish it within the month, so I just kind of don't think that I probably will. I would have needed to finish it quickly like I did with the other Korean reads that I read, you know, so unfortunately that didn't happen. I kind of soft DNF'd it. I also finished Beyond the Story, which was the BTS memoir, and I think the beginning and the end were the best parts, and the middle was kind of long and draggy, and I didn't follow it very well. I think maybe ARMY, who is more familiar with the discography or who have been ARMY longer, would probably follow it better because they went through the ups and downs that BTS went through. It's just that it's so clean. Like, they didn't want to throw any shade at anyone when they were writing this memoir. So it was just a bit kind of dull because they weren't throwing any shade, you know? It just was like, it was like, I mean, they're all like princes and they all have so much grace. And so when they describe things, it's more like talking about how it was really tough, but we overcame it without giving any details, you know? So that to me was not that exciting, I guess, to listen to. It would have been more exciting if they gave more details about their training or the difficulties that they faced. There were certain things, like if somebody shaded them publicly on like an interview or something like that, they would mention that because that person made it public. But if somebody threw shade at them more privately, they weren't going to mention that because they might still be working with that person. You know, that kind of thing. It was just very like protective of everybody. Which wasn't super exciting. So I guess that's all I would say about it. I did learn, though, a lot about them, and yeah, it wasn't terrible. But anyways, that's kind of my thoughts on that. As you can tell, I didn't script this this month because I'm really focusing on work right now. I'm trying to get my work done, you know. I did pretty well this week on work. Okay, and so maybe we'll move into my September TBR now. So that should be pretty quick, hopefully. I finished quite a bit of Bleak House. I have like 100 pages left. Like I'm really almost done. And I've loved it the whole way through. Even when it was a struggle, I still loved it because it was always worth it. When I went through the struggle and suddenly understood it, it was kind of like reading Dostoevsky. I felt like it's worth the struggle, but not everybody felt that way. Naomi is like not worth the struggle. Maybe worth the struggle, but she's not going to rate it higher than like a 3, I think. And Victoria, I think this honestly makes sense because this is probably written for people who don't work a full-time job, which Naomi and Victoria both do. I feel like it's written for people who have the luxury of enjoying a too long book that's a bit of a struggle at times. And I have that luxury, and I just enjoyed it a lot. Like, I probably enjoyed reading this like 80% of the time, which is a very high amount. A lot of books, that is not the case. So for me, it was all winning, but I also don't, I work, but I don't work 40 hours a week. Yeah, so that I could understand why, if you only have so much time for your reading and you can't read anything else for like 3 months except Bleak House because it's too long, I could understand how that would maybe make you a little bitter against Bleak House. So yeah, that's, I think, what I would say about it. It's so good though. It's really well crafted. I think we're gonna get all the loose ends tied up. We're following, basically there's a court case that we learn at the beginning of the book, that there's just been generations of people who have gone without seeing the court case resolved, and it's like a criticism of the courts, and that's what a lot of this book is a criticism of how slow and how useless the court system was. And you see various characters who are involved with the court case, I think that's part of the fatal flaw of the book for a lot of people, is there's such a humongous cast. You learn the backstories of like every single person, even if they only show up for one chapter, you know? And that's a lot to read, and it doesn't all feel vital. But we haven't finished it yet, and I think maybe most of those loose ends are going to get wrapped up by the resolution of the court case. And there's one perspective that runs throughout the book, of Esther. Esther is the character with that perspective, and her perspective is so cozy because you already know the characters and you're just kind of seeing their lives. That wasn't my favorite by any stretch. I was actually a little bit bored by hers because she's like a storyteller, basically. For most of her perspective is just storytelling other people's stories, and that wasn't very exciting to me. I really preferred the omniscient narrator perspectives because that was where the conflict was happening, and that's where the mysteries were developing. There's like murder that happens. There's like tons of death. There's lots of death. And there's secrets. And yeah, I mean, there's some things happening with the plot that I was gripped by, and every time the omniscient narrator came in, I knew we were going to get a piece of the puzzle. So I was here for the omniscient parts. Other people were not. It's written in present tense, so it's kind of weird for a lot of people, but I'm loving it. I'm planning definitely to finish this by the end of the month. So yeah, maybe I'll talk about it a little bit more next month, but I should be finishing this by the end of September. I'm surprised I only haven't finished it because I'm trying to work more on New Moon before our live show in a couple hours. So otherwise I would have finished it by now. Love this so much. My first Dickens that I've loved the whole way through. I think the reason I liked A Tale of Two Cities was because it was short, and I loved the ending. The rest of it I could have done without, honestly, but the ending was great. And that was my best experience I've had with Dickens. This is a new best, for sure. I definitely understand why people would call this his magnum opus, because I think it is. I've read like maybe 4 or 5 Dickens, and this is definitely my favorite. So glad we read it. And what else? I'm gonna finish some of the books I've been reading at night, hopefully soon. Moby Dick and The Saturdays by Elizabeth Enright, which I didn't quite finish before Tiffany's book club meeting yesterday. So fun to hear everybody's thoughts though. Tiffany and her daughter both gave it a 5, which made me so happy. This is following the Melindi children. They live in New York City, and they all pool their weekly allowances, and they give each other their allowance once a week so that once a month they can spend everybody's allowance and do something way more fun than they could do with only their own allowance. So every Saturday, somebody gets to go have an adventure with all the money of their siblings all pooled together. So yeah, that was really fun seeing the kids, what they chose based on their personalities. And I just think Elizabeth Enright knows what fascinates a child, but her descriptions are so childlike in the way that they're described. It's like so convincing. It's like, I feel like I am reading a child's point of view, and it's just delightful. It's so cozy. I just love the series, and I hope I can buddy read the rest of it with Tiffany, because it sounds like she and her daughter are going to continue. So maybe we can buddy read it. Definitely one of my favorite children's series. So cozy. Okay, next, I'm going to finish Daniel with my community group. We're almost done with Daniel. And I'll probably finish Luke on my own. And Miss Kim Knows by Cho Namjoo, which is actually a book that's not available here yet. But, okay, I don't know if how much you caught of that, but I have a library in Korea that gives me access to this, early access. And this is the author of Kim Ji-young, 1989, I don't know. I need to read that one, but since I have this one out from the library, Kim Ji-young, born 1982, that's what it is. Translated by Jamie Chang. So I'm excited to check this out and see what it's like. Joan of Arc's biography, which I'm still only 30% through. I don't know why I'm so slow. But honestly, all the names and the dates, I only just got to Joan for the first time at 34%. I don't know if I'm going to be able to finish this. I was really hoping I'd be able to like kind of blow through it. Maybe now that we're focusing on Joan, I will be able to kind of blow through it quicker. We'll see. I'm going to do my best because I'm enjoying it, but it's a lot of work. It shouldn't be taking me this long. Yeah, but it's taken me so many hours have already gone into it. And it's only an 8-hour audiobook. I'm reading it physically because otherwise I can't follow it at all. Too many names and dates. Loving it though, but it's just, I'm loving learning. I just love to learn. And this is a topic I'm curious about. But I just feel like a nice thing though about Helen Castor is she really gets in the perspective of the medieval mind, and she never breaks it. Like all of her descriptions are like, you know, and was this God's will? You know, clearly this was God's will in this because this king won this battle, but in this battle it's not clear what God's will was. But God was speaking to Joan, so you know, we're gonna see what God does through Joan now. She's just like so in the medieval mind. It's fascinating. I love it. Okay, what's next? Gearing up for Writing Project Gutenberg. Yep, it's coming. Oh, I didn't talk about Travels with Charley. How did I skip over that? New favorite book of the year. Just filmed a review. I'll talk about it more there. This is John Steinbeck traveling America with his French poodle. And I loved it so much. It was so cozy until the end, and the end is like, wow, this is what he was leading up to the whole time. It's really hard-hitting and critical of America in places, but it's also so cozy, and I think John Steinbeck also loved America, even though he was critical of America. The person who wrote the introduction to this book clearly has gripes with America, and he thought that John Steinbeck really didn't like America, but I feel like that's not the tone of this book. The tone of this book is I love America and I want to make it better. I want to help it progress and become a better nation. And that's what I feel like it was about. Yeah, I loved it. It was so good. I can't wait for you guys to see my review of this. Definitely a new favorite of the year. And that was my book club pick for what's today? What's this month? August. And I read it with Kate from the Larry Apothecary and Stephanie from Miss Richards Read read it with us. And we had such a great Zoom call. It was the best. It was so good. I just love those ladies. And next month's pick for the book club is Fathers and Sons by Ivan Turgenev. This, I think a lot of people are maybe joining us. I don't know. You never really know. If you get like 8 people saying they're going to read it, you can maybe expect like 4 of them to come. So we'll see who's able to make it. It is pretty short, so I have hopes. But this is a joint book club pick with Tiffany's Patreon, and yeah, we've both been wanting to read this, and we decided, of course, on a Russian classic. It's been a while since I've really read anything super Russian, so yay. And I think next month also will be a Russian book. Let me see what it is. Yes, One Day in the Life of Ivan Denisovich. So this is the September book, which we will meet on September, I think, 16th. It's the 3rd September of the month, and I believe it's at 1 p.m. ET. So that would be 10 a.m. Pacific time. And we'll meet via Zoom. If you want to join us for Fathers and Sons, email me at christylewisreviews@gmail.com, and I will add you to the Zoom list. My Zoom list is for my book club. I don't usually keep a separate Zoom list for each book. But I know some people really don't want to join for every book. They just want a single book. So I guess let me know in your email if you only want to join this or if you want to join the book club as a whole. So, and then, yeah, so the October book will be One Day in the Life of Ivan Denisovich. Also short. I think I also have that over here somewhere. But anyways, so excited. Okay. Also, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe will be Emma's book club pick. A subscriber, Kurt, just gave me a brand new collection of the Chronicles of Narnia. You'll see it in my vlog. This vlog is going to be a 2-week vlog. So you'll see it at the end of this 2 weeks. At the end of September, at the end of August, you will see this beautiful edition of the Chronicles of Narnia that he sent me. I've already read that maybe like 2 or 3 years ago, so I don't know if I will reread it, but that will be for Emma, the Bookish Princess's Bookish Kingdom book club. So I'm definitely excited to go discuss it with them. And we'll see, maybe I will reread it. I just love Tumnus. Tumnus is great. So, other things, Tokyo Ueno Station. Yeah, that's a buddy read that I might be doing this month or soon with the same group who read the book by Elisa, Shua, Dusapin. Winter in Sokcho. This is the book. So this is Japanese literature, which Una knows that I love. And so when he suggested this, I was excited. So we'll see how this goes. National Book Award, New York Times notable book. I don't know anything about it at all. But I'm always down for a buddy read with Una. And of course with Stephanie and Tiffany. Stephanie and Tiffany. Yeah, I said that right. That was weird. Okay, anyways. The other things that I will be reading. I will be reading This Is What It Sounds Like by Susan Rogers and Ogi Ogas. This is for Victoria's brand new Patreon. Victoria is the musical bookworm, so I think it's so I love that she chose a musical book for our September book. Normally it's going to be a thing that we vote on. We'll be voting on the nominations, and then there will be like a spinning wheel. So no, she's going to ask us for nominations for genres, and then once the genre is chosen, then people will nominate titles within that genre. And then she uses a spinning wheel to choose both the genre and the book that we'll be reading. So I'm so excited for our October pick because we chose that one together. And it'll be Carmilla, the female vampire story. All I know is that it's like a female version of the vampire story. And it's supposed to be like a feminist classic. So excited to try that. I think it's like a lesbian classic as well. So, which I don't read that much. Because I don't read that much modern literature, I don't read that much LGBTQ literature either. So I need to do that. I know that I need to do that because I want to hear everybody's perspective about everything. And so yeah, I definitely want to read a lesbian classic and see what's all the fuss about. So Christie by Catherine Marshall. Yay! I'm so excited to read this. This is Kate Howe's Kindred Spirits book club pick. I've been wanting to read this since I was a kid. I'm going to prioritize this. So I watched the movie when I was a kid, and it's about a schoolhouse, a school mistress who goes to like teach a one-room schoolhouse out in the boonies, and all these children are like illiterate. They don't know how to read or write. It's like Jane Eyre. It's like if Jane Eyre was the schoolhouse mistress for an entire book. But I think better, because that portion of the Jane Eyre book was not the most exciting. But yeah, I'm excited to check this out. I've never read it. So another thing that I will be starting is The Pillars of the House Volume 1 by Charlotte Mary Young with Kate Howe's. No, that's not a Patreon read. That's just a fun Victober. Maybe it is a Patreon read. I don't know. It's a fun Victober buddy read that she's doing with her Patreon. The best Patreon. Next, I have some secret projects that I might be doing this month, so I won't talk about those. Another book that Kurt sent me, The Rape of Nanking by Iris Chang. I might try this one as well. We'll see if I have time. As you can tell, I have lots of options, and I never know where I'm going to end up finishing. I don't know what I'm going to end up prioritizing, but I am excited to check this out because I don't know anything about Japan at all. Yeah. So this is, okay, Nanking is, so it sounds like this is when Japan invaded China. Okay, anyways. Interested to read this. Okay, that's it. Thanks so much for watching. Sorry this is so long. Why am I apologizing? That's all I have time for. I don't have time for editing it. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. Let me know down below if you're going to be reading any of these with me. And yeah, what you're going to be, what you enjoyed the most in August. I get so many recommendations from you guys. This was a recommendation from Kurt before he sent it to me. And I told him, yeah, I want to read that. So yeah. Okay, that's it for now. Talk to you next